What's going on, guys? It's your boy Dashy. Alright, so I've been saying that I've been wanting to do a Season 8 Vi guide for a while now, similar to how I made the Season 7 an in-depth guide for would-be Vi mains. Basically, one of the big reasons I haven't done it yet is because I really have had a hard time feeling like this season has solidified in anything that's been consistent. I can't consistently tell you go this path because everything keeps on changing thanks to the 8.11 changes, or the 8.10. I don't fucking remember the changes with Scuttle Crab. I mean, there's that. Our items are getting changed in the next patch, or some of the items are getting changed. Who knows if Spear is going to be what we want or not, and all that. So the one thing that I can kind of say has stayed consistent no matter what is the runes, so I'm going to kind of go over the runes. And one reason this kind of bothers me that I'm just doing just the runes alone is because I want everything to be available all in one video for people, and kind of have it be a one-stop shop, just like how the in-depth Vi guide was for Season 7. So it kind of pains me to do it this way, but there's a lot to talk about with the runes, so I'm gonna just go ahead and do it. And yeah, the main reason aside from that I want it all in one is I don't monetize my videos on YouTube. I don't make money on this at all. If you guys want to support me at all, the way to go about it is to go to my Twitch. I have sub button there. I have bits enabled, whatever. If you actually wanted to support me, you can go there, or just just hang out. But I don't make money off this, so I don't need to do the whole make a 10-minute video and make 20 10-minute videos talking about one specific thing, where I can just make an hour-long video or whatever, and you can just skip around and have it be one singular video that'll help you out. So again, this being an outlier, hopefully once our items get situated and stuff with the next patch, I'll finally be able to make something more complete, and I might just chop and screw this this video up and put it in the in-depth Vi guide at some point, and just kind of make it a way shorter version of this, just with the suggested pages or whatever. But without further ado, I'm just gonna get the video started, and I hope you guys enjoy. So I'm gonna go over the rune options that you have and stuff like that, and kind of talk about like how some different minor runes will compare to each other, and how situationally you might go for one over the other. But I'm gonna start this off with going over two generic pages, or a couple really generic pages that you can try out. This is the main one that I suggest to new players. You go Electrocute, Sudden Impact, Eyeball Collection, Ravenous Hunter, Triumph, and Coup de Grace. You used to be able to go Zombie Ward. You still can if you really want the utility of it, but it's just been nerfed a lot, so I find it better to go Eyeball Collection. Your other option is this, which is basically the exact same thing. So if you run Celerity Water Rocking, for river duels and just overall a little bit more mobility. You can run Relentless Hunter as well in this situation, but I personally find Ravenous Hunter to be better because it just offers more for your early clear and allows you to be on the map a little bit more, because you're never going, well, you're not never going to be low health, but your clear is just way healthier. You can, and later on in the game you can actually utilize this to basically go into your jungle, clear like a camp, and then be back to full health. So those are my two like really suggested pages. I'm gonna go over one other one that's not as like generic. A lot of people, it didn't really catch on nearly as much, but if you really don't like Electrocute, you really want something tankier, you can go for Aftershock. Currently I'd say Bone Plating's best option, but followed by with Conditioning here. This one doesn't really matter nearly as much. I think Conditioning is better. You can go Chrysalis instead. And then you have Unflinching because you have Smite, so you should basically always have this thing active. I would say that unflinching is better than overgrowth, but again, that's another optional thing you have here. Celerity, I find if you aren't going to go Domination primary, it's kind of like really up in the air whether you want Sorcery or Domination. Each of them have their own pluses and minuses to them. I personally find having Celerity is a lot better than your options for Domination. Then I also just bring Gathering Storm because I'm getting less bonuses over here, and you end up using this to kind of scale more into the mid to late game. Alternatively, some of the more fun ones, by some I mean the one because the fucking unsealed spellbook died, is the Predator page. This is the page I run for Predator by. Anyway, so from here, I'll talk about your actual, you know, each and every individual rune. We'll start from the very beginning. And we're going to talk about the Keystones first. Okay, so in your precision category, you've got Press the Attack. A lot of people were really thinking that this was going to be the Keystone to take on Vi. There's a couple of reasons why it's not the Keystone to take. First of all, your generic combo is Q auto attack E, which only contains 2 auto attacks, which does not proc Press the Attack. And basically, your Q auto E is your burst combo. So, in order for you to proc Press the Attack, it ends up proccing after your front load, after your main source of damage has already occurred. And what it does is it amplifies the damage to the target from your teammates, basically, and the little sustained damage that you'll continue to do, but it's not nearly as much as the burst damage from something like Electrocute. Press the Attack can work, in my opinion. If you really want it to, you can take it and just kind of be a tank shredder, but personally I don't really think it's that good of a thing even in that situation. I would personally rather just run an Aftershock rune or a Keystone page if you really wanted to be contending with the tanks, because all that does is it doesn't gut your damage that much, but it allows you to survive longer, which helps you deal with tanks, because obviously if you're squishy trying to deal with a tank, it's not gonna work out very well because you're both melee. Lethal Tempo, I don't even really feel like I need to go over this one, but it's bad. It's not really that good on many champions in the first place. Don't waste your time with this rune, it sucks. Fleet Footwork. See, now Fleet Footwork is funny. Fleet Footwork is kind of troll, but it works as a pseudo Phase Rush Storm Raider Surge kind of thing. And it makes your clears even healthier, which isn't really that important because your clears aren't super bad as Vi in the first place, but it's still worth noting because you're still going to get healing. And now that the Fleet Footwork was nerfed for ranged champions, and I think it got buffed for melee champions, not sure about that part, but I think it'll heal you even more than it used to. And on top of that, once you get if you land a Q in a gank, you'll instantly get the auto attack afterward, proccing Fleet Footwork, and then you'll get a movement speed buff. It's not good. I won't say that this is even in like the top 5 suggested runes for me, but it's an option if you're really fucking weird about it. I mean, like it's not as troll as some of the other options. How about I put it that way? Still wouldn't suggest it though. Conqueror is bad in the jungle. The only people that can take advantage of Conqueror in the jungle are Master Yi and Udyr. I wouldn't really suggest anybody else. I mean, maybe Aatrox, I guess. If you play Aatrox jungle, I guess. But it's not something you want in the jungle. It takes way too long for it to actually spin up. Your entire combo is already done by the time this thing finally comes up for you to be able to pop it for the extra 80 enter damage. It's just not worth it. And even in lane Vi, I just don't think this is worth it. I think you get way more burst damage from Electrocute, and if you're top lane, you made a mistake in the first place, but I think press the attack would be better, or just continuing to go Electrocute. And roaming, because top lane is not where you want to be as Vi anyways. So then we'll move on. We'll just do the Keystones, like I said. So we'll, that's those. We're going to the Domination tree. Electrocute's the bread and butter one. It's the main one. It's better Thunderlords. The reason I say it's better Thunderlords is because it can proc from your summoner spells, which Thunderlords didn't. So prior, you had to go Q auto attack E and Electrocute would proc. Mind you, that's not hard to do in the first place, but you can just Q auto smite. Like if you cannot get that extra auto in for whatever reason, a smite, even if it's red smite or blue smite, will proc this. And from my understanding, and I actually haven't tested this, but it's what I've been told by somebody that does do testing. If you ulti, it actually counts as 2 hits for Electrocute. So literally you can go ulti and smite, and it procs Electrocute. And the scaling's better on it, and it does adaptive damage, meaning that if you build lethality, or actually there's multiple parts to this. If you end up proccing your W prior to Electrocute going off, which is what happens most of the time when you go Q auto E, your W will proc, their armor will go lower. This thing does physical damage, meaning that it does even more damage because their armor has been lowered. Same deal with lethality. It's affected by lethality. So because it does adaptive damage, thanks to your armor pen, it does even more damage. So this is the tier 1 rune. Electrocute, I would say, is what you want to go with most of the time. Like 99% of the time. Alright. Next we got Predator. Predator, I think, is a really niche option. I really like it. And I'd say I'm kind of like a cult leader of Predator Vi, even though I don't even run it that much. But the thing is, in preseason I tried it a lot, and I actually really enjoyed it. The whole thing is, with Predator, you really have to kind of play around it. Basically, when you don't have boots, you don't have a keystone, you kind of have to have an entire page built around it to make it work. And overall, you play around the cooldown of that a lot more than you play around other things. The upside of it is that basically anytime that you sit back and you're like, man, I don't think I'm going to be able to get a gank off on top lane. They're not pushed in or whatever, and maybe they got it warded. You pop Predator, they're not getting away. We're talking pre-6 or whatever, they're not getting away. It doesn't matter. They can have that warded, you're going to be coming at them in a ridiculous movement speed. But, yeah, the whole problem is the cooldown is obscenely long for a keystone. Understandably, it's a very impactful keystone. If it had a lower cooldown, it would be ridiculous, and you'd see it everywhere. So I can understand it's higher cooldown, but for somebody that also needs to be prioritizing farming and ganking, I think it kind of makes it difficult to balance that with Predator. So that's kind of my take on that. I would put this at my number 3 option for runes. If I said Electrocute was first, Aftershock second, Predator's third. Next we've got Dark Harvest. Dark Harvest, kind of mamey, not really good. You don't have a reason that you need to take Dark Harvest. One thing that there's literally like 3 things that makes Dark Harvest a better option than Electrocute in some very certain situations. Reason 1, it procs on turrets. So if you're trying to split push, this thing can do wonders for you because you can pick up the soul from a cannon minion, pop it on the turret, and it does bonus damage. If you get multi-kills, the Dark Harvest will reset from kills, meaning that you can pop it again on the next person you go on to. So it works in a reset faction. And actually, I think that's it. I don't think there's actually a third reason. It's basically just you can apply it to turrets and it resets. you can kind of say that it does more instantaneous damage, but realistically, you can still do the exact same thing with Electrocute. The only difference is Electrocute actually is pretty much guaranteed to be up, whereas Dark Harvest, before you have 150 stacks, wherever the fuck this is, I don't even know. I think it says, yeah, 150 stacks, you have to hit something within 30 seconds of picking up that soul, which is not always easy to do. So again, I think it's not good, but if you're like playing a normal game with friends and they're like, you're in the fucking low elo or some shit, like, and you know that you can just pop off on these people, Dark Harvest kind of works, I guess. Hail Blade sucks on pretty much every champion. Literally, this thing was made for Xin Zhao. Now I need to show you something, right? So we're gonna say that this was made for Xin Zhao is pretty much the case. Anybody that says otherwise is wrong. This thing was literally fucking made with Xin Zhao in mind. Let's see what Xin Zhao takes, because I'm gonna tell you right now, he isn't taking Hail Blades. Look at this. He still takes fucking Sorcery. He still takes Phase Rush. He doesn't fucking take Hail Blades. 6.8% pick rate, and it has a 49% win rate. This Keystone was literally made for him. Oh wait, for whatever reason it's not showing it. Haha. This Keystone was literally made for him, and it still sucks. This Keystone is not made for Vi. I wouldn't suggest this whatsoever. You just don't go with it. Just save yourself. So that's the Domination tree. Again, this contains your bread and butter Keystone Electrocute, so it's probably the best one to go with. I'm clicking that one on exit. So the next one we got is Sorcery. These two aren't good for jungle. Okay, that should be pretty apparent. You're not Iverns, you aren't gonna take advantage of Summonary, and Comet does so little damage that it doesn't matter. Either way, both of these are bad. Don't unless it's an accident. There's no excuse to take these. Not even in lane. Even in lane, Comet still doesn't do. Comet or Airy still isn't going to match up with damage from Electrocute. You still, even knowing that you can poke with E, like, these will end up doing less damage. Now, the only one that you can kind of argue is Phase Rush, but the problem that you run into with Phase Rush is that it offers basically nothing to you past like level 6. Not really level 6 specifically, but like past 15 minutes in. I know that's pretty big difference. We went from like 7 minutes in to 15. But regardless, once they start grouping, Phase Rush offers very little. Phase Rush doesn't add to your burst, so if anybody has any sort of defenses or shielding that they can put on an AD carry, that's gonna hinder this a lot more. If you know, they're just mobile, this might help a little bit, but it doesn't add to your resistances either, like Aftershock would. It offers basically just utility for you to move faster towards them, but if you can't get that burst combo off and kill them, and then still be able to survive afterwards, it doesn't matter. So this thing kind of works really well in the early game, but it loses its steam very quickly into the very early mid game. It's kind of what I would say. It's easy to proc. It's the same way you can proc Electrocute. It's just same thing, 3 attacks or abilities. And it gives you a bonus movement speed and slow resistance. There's a decent amount of slow resistance too. So if they've only got slows, it's even more effective. But it doesn't matter. I'd put this thing at like maybe 5th best at best. We're talking like Electrocute tier 1, Aftershock tier 2, Predator tier 3, Dark Harvest tier 4, I guess, or some shit, and fucking Phase Rush in 5th. I don't know. Sure. There's your Sorcery Keystones. Again, this isn't really something you're going to be dipping into. We got Resolve, Grassy and Dying. You don't want this in the jungle. It's not. You don't take this in the jungle. No. You don't. Fucking goddamn. This is not something you take in the jungle. Same reasons you don't take Conquer in the jungle. You need to be in combat for X amount of seconds, and then it finally does something. And this is just made for like long duels. It's made for laners. There's no jungler that takes this. And then you've got Aftershock. Now Aftershock, okay, so I'm gonna kind of talk about the history of Aftershock. I tried this in preseason. I hated it. I absolutely hated it. I could not get this to work. Back in preseason, when you went Resolve Primary, it didn't matter what your secondary path was. It just meant you got like the 150 bonus health or whatever the hell it is. You just got the bonus, or I think it was 200 then, if this is 150 there. You just got the bonus health, and that's it. You didn't get anything else. So, you lacked bonus AD for your clear. There was no... It wasn't flat resistances that it gave you percentage based. So until mid game, when you had defenses built, it didn't do anything. Once this got reworked to be flat bonus or flat armor and magic resist, and gave it an 80 scaling, it started to actually be half decent. That was the time when I was finally able to make this work. So basically, all this does, in my opinion, in the very early game, like levels 3 to 6, it allows you to dive more safely because you're going to get some resistances on that dive. But more importantly, it lets you scale way better into the mid game, because you're not really lacking damage as much in the mid game as much as what do you do after you kill that priority target? Okay, well, we bursted down this person, but now we're just gonna die because we're squishy, or whatever. Or in the case of not being able to do enough damage even with Electrocute, this thing gives you that huge burst of resistances that it doesn't matter if they can keep on auto-attacking you, because you can survive for an additional 5 seconds or whatever, because you go for the traditional Warrior Trinity Force Sterex build, where you're just going to get a huge stack of health that pops when Sterex pops, and stack that with the Aftershock proc giving you a decent amount of resistances, means you're not dying right away. You're just going to kind of be a juggernaut. At least that's kind of how I feel, having played with Ghostblade Vi for a very, very long time. I'm talking literally, the first time that I did it was Season 5. And I have been doing it pretty much religiously since Season 5. So for me, going to what most people would, not most, but a lot of people would say is still full AD Vi with Warrior, Trinity, and Sterex, I feel a lot tankier, especially if I take Aftershock, and I basically feel like a raid boss. You don't get the one shots and everything like that you would get with Electrocute and the Ghostblade build, but definitely lets you scale way better into the mid game. And the whole goal with the Ghostblade build, anyways, is to end the game by mid game. You don't want to get to late game with a lethality build. So that's the whole case with that. Guardian I wouldn't suggest. I mean, there was somebody named Scraff who he's bless his heart was tilted off the fucking face of the earth and wanted Guardian. He was testing other shit out, and he tried out Guardian Vi, and he was trying to talk to us about Guardian Vi, and it's not worth it. Even when he was going over the games where it went well, he was still only shielding people like a total of maybe 4 times in the entire game. It's not worth it. This isn't something you need, because you don't have a way to target your ally specifically. And the only way for this to actually work is for you to like ulti on somebody that is diving on your teammate, and it's just a way too specific scenario for it to be functional. Yeah. Inspiration. Wow, my fucking mouse just slid. Glacial Augment. God damn it, I did it again. Whatever. Glacial Augment. This thing's slow. Doesn't even feel noticeable, if I'm being honest. I tried this and thought it would be half decent, especially since it says 45% to 55%. You would think that it's a pretty strong slow, but for whatever reason, it just doesn't feel that strong. Maybe it's just because you already have red buff and it's just a little bit stronger of a slow than that. That's my guess. I don't know. I didn't really feel a difference with it. It just felt like a wasted keystone. I wouldn't suggest this, and yeah, just stick with something else. Next, you got Kleptomancy. You don't take Kleptomancy in the jungle. You just don't. It's, you know, stop. There's one user. Okay, there's a couple users, but most of the other ones stopped using it. There's one consistent user of Kleptomancy, and it's Ezreal. You can argue about Nasus, Alawi, and Gangplank all you want. They still probably go Grasp. Most of them go Grasp. Your last option is Unsealed Spellbook. Now recently this got changed. I haven't looked into it since it got changed. Its initial, what the fuck is it called? Rendition, whatever. The way it was initially was pretty decent for Vi, in that you could go the inspiration tree, you would take the perfect timing, then you had the boots rune here still, and you could kind of go this like really cheesy early like money saving build, and then constantly have your smite up as well and your flash up, and it's just way more fast paced of a game. You let you control things. But with new Unsealed Spellbook, like I said, I haven't tried it. I don't think I've heard of anybody really using it much in the jungle. I don't think this is something you're going to be looking at as a jungler. I know it has the whole option of like, okay, I'm going to go into a gank, my flash is on cooldown, I guess I can switch to Ghost or something. Or I don't need Smite for this gank obviously because I don't have my shit fucking initial swaps at 4 minutes. I don't know, dude. A lot of people are just like, okay, you can take like teleport after a gank goes well, and you can like teleport top and fucking gank there immediately afterwards or something. Like, I don't know. I haven't seen anybody actually do this, and I don't think it's something you're really gonna want to go for. So that's your Keystones in a nutshell. Now I'm gonna talk about the miners, the minor Keystones, what the fuck these things are called, minor runes, whatever. Okay, so we got, if we're looking here for precision, your two best options here are Triumph and Presence of Mind. Yes, I said Presence of Mind, I'm not trolling. Now I'm going to talk about these a little bit more in depth. So Overheal you don't need. Overheal like barely affects you ever. Triumph is nice because basically dangerous game on steroids. It can help save your ass with a really risky dive or whatever. That health back after a duel, I mean, it's always gonna work. It's always gonna do something for you, as long as you want to fight. This is kind of an all-rounder, definitely going to work kind of thing. But Presence of Mind is a little bit of a different case. Presence of Mind, the 10% cooldown refunding on your ulti can come in handy a lot, but you have to play around it. Basically, what this means is, once you hit 6, and say you have 0 CDR, your cooldown for your ulti is 150 seconds. You hit 6, you run down bot, you use your ulti on bot, and of course it works the same way as Triumph, where it's a little bit of a delayed proc. So you can even go Q auto attack E. If that Q auto attack E kills somebody, you can still ulti onto the second target, and then the Presence of Mind proc will follow you, and then go towards refunding the cooldown. So basically what I'm saying is, if you go down bot immediately after getting your ulti or whatever, you get a double kill. Alright, that turns your 150 second ult cooldown down to 120 seconds. And that's immediately after using it. That's literally if 0 time has passed since you hit R. Now mind you, a gank is probably going to last like 10 seconds, so that means you're walking away from bot lane. Well, by the time the second person dies, we're going to just go ahead and say there's only like 110 seconds left on your ulti, as opposed to what would normally be 140 seconds. So in the very early game, before you hit level 2 ulti, before you hit before you hit 40% CDR, before you hit all that. That's where this thing really shines, because your ulti just is, it feels like it's never on cooldown, or it's very short, because on top of that, you know you can still make plays without your ulti. So if you go do that, you go, okay, farm a couple camps, and now you go mid. You don't have your ulti up, but you're just gonna go for the gank anyways. Say it happens to work out where you guys get the pickup and the kill, and bam, there's another 15 seconds back on your ult. And that's the whole thing, is even while your ulti's on cooldown, you can continue to shave those seconds off of your ulti cooldown timer. The other thing that's in this one's kind of really niche. There's two things that can happen that are really kind of very situational. In the very late game, when you have level 3 ulti, you have a rank 3 ult, or you have rank 3 ult, you have 40% CDR. You go and you start a fight. You use your ulti before somebody dies or whatever, before the proc would happen. You get 4 kills. Not you specifically, but you participate in 4 kills. Your ulti at that level has, I don't know, 40 seconds of a cooldown or something. Like when it's rank 3 and has 40% cooldown, it's somewhere around 40 seconds. Now you get your no, it's 40. Is it 48? I don't know. No, it's 42. It's 42. So you get 42 seconds, and then every time you get a takedown, it's 4.2 seconds off. So that means you get those 4 kills, and that's right when you use your ulti right off the bat. And it gets reduced by about, what is that, 17 seconds? Yeah, about 17 seconds. So 42 down to from 17 is 35. Is that 35? No, it's not. It's 25. So 25 seconds. Now, 25 seconds after you hit R, that means you can hit R again to help pick up the kill on that last person. It's very specific, it's very niche, but those few situations where that's gonna happen, you're gonna kind of feel like, holy shit, that's wild. I just got 2 ultis in one fight. And it's crazy. And I love it. And the other thing that I can say it's a very very interesting scenario is you go down bot lane, you've got like 20 seconds left on your ult, or 10 seconds left on your ult, whatever. You initiate when you have like 10 seconds left on your ult. You get the first kill, Presence of Mind pops, your ulti comes off cooldown, you go for the second person. Basically cutting 10 seconds off your ulti that you would have had to wait otherwise. It's different things like that that kind of makes this a very good pick to me. Would I say it's better than Triumph? No, I'm never going to say that it's better than Triumph, but I'm going to say that if you want to play around your ulti more and you want to be more impactful on the map, Presence of Mind is definitely a good option to consider. Because you got your legend lines. If you have to go, if you're going precision primary, I guess you take these. I still think if you're going to go for, because I'm going to talk about this, I guess. You're usually going precision secondary. I think coup de grace is going to be better than taking the legend line. But if you're going in the legend line, you can go Alacrity or you can go Tenacity. I wouldn't really suggest the Bloodline one, mainly because lifesteal is not that good on Vi. I wouldn't really suggest it. So you can go Alacrity for the attack speed, or you can stack Tenacity. If they have a lot of CC but you don't need the MR, this is something you're looking at in Champion Select, and you're like, okay, they only have like 1 AP, but I really need the Tenacity. You can take the Tenacity Legend, and it'll help you out. Or on top, you could actually just stack having this and Merc Treads for an insane amount of Tenacity. But yeah, Bloodline's not really what you need. Cut Down, you'll never really take advantage of. Last Stand, you could kind of argue, but I don't think it's really that worth it for you. I think coup de grace you'll just mostly have a better time with. And this is basically an execute. The main there's a couple reasons for why this I think is better. Mainly because the little reset mechanic where you get 9 AD after a kill. Secondly, because your W procs after your E, or no, well, basically what happens is like your electrocute damage especially will be amplified by coup de grace, because it'll be like that little last tick of health. So there's little interactions that make it so this guarantees that you finish off that kill. So I would say like this is your best option in tier 3. Next, we're gonna go with Domination. Okay. So cheap shot, you don't need it. Taste of blood, you don't need it. In sudden impact, you've got a dash. It's a 4-second cooldown. You do 100% physical damage, so gaining lethality means you've amped up all of your damage. So hands down, you just always take sudden impact. Cheap shot, I mean, cheap shot is only really good if you don't have a dash. So you have a dash, you don't need this. Taste of blood, you just don't need it. Now, these are kind of up to your choice. They used to be more up to your choice, but I really think it's eyeball collection being a much better option now. You should just be able to read these and tell what they do. I think Ghost Poro is not that good. I think most people think Ghost Poro is not that good. Zombie Ward used to be good. It's kind of meh now, and this thing gives you more damage. Now you got your Hunter options. Okay, so there's a couple of reasons that I think Ravenous Hunter is really the best option. Reason number 1 is it applies to your W and your E. Those things are considered spells, meaning that when you proc them, you're going to get health back, as you would like lifesteal or whatever. So you'll still get healing from those, your Q auto attack, or your Q, your W proc, your E, and your ulti. Like all those things are going to give you health back. And on top of that, like I said earlier, when you run Ravenous Hunter, it kind of makes it so you can actually go and clear camp, get some health back, and stay on the field longer without having to base, because you basically have inbuilt lifesteal. It's kind of like having old Spirit Stone. If you kind of remember what that, if you've played back then when Spirit Stone was a thing, that's kind of how this feels. Ingenious Hunter, there's only one time I will ever suggest taking this, and it's if you're going Predator. You don't have enough actives to make Ingenious Hunter end up being better than Relentless, Ravenous, or even Ultimate Hunter. Next we'll go about Relentless Hunter. Relentless Hunter is something that a lot of junglers will take. It allows you to be on the map more. Obviously it's out of combat movement speed, so it doesn't help you in combat, but it helps you roam more. It helps you get around the map more. It's definitely a very good snowballing option, and it gives you 8 right off the bat regardless. So it can give you a lot of movement speed as it stacks up. A lot of junglers opt for this as a generic choice. So this is definitely a viable alternative to Ravenous Hunter if that's more your playstyle. The next one I'll go over is Ultimate Hunter. Now I've been running Ultimate Hunter with Presence of Mind lately, and in all honesty, the Ultimate Hunter doesn't really do much for you. The only time that I've really seen that Ultimate Hunter does stuff for you is kind of again in the very early game. If you can get some stacks pre-6, that means you get 5% plus the 2% of whatever amount of takedowns you've gotten. You could have that 15% reduction by the time you hit R, or by the time you get your ulti. But it's kind of one of those things where if you don't get that, it's not really that noticeable. And in the very late game, there's a weird little interaction that makes it so your the Presence of Mind proc happens prior to factoring in the Ultimate Hunter's CDR. So that means you don't get diminishing returns out of that either, because the Presence of Mind will refund its cooldown based on if you had 40% its cooldown on your ulti rather than 40% times 85%, whatever the number ends up being. Because that's the other thing, is it's not an additive. Your ultimate cooldown doesn't go down to 50% cooldown or 55% cooldown reduction. It's more something like, what do we figure out? I think it's like 50, 51 or 40, 49. It's something closer to that. so it doesn't add together. But those different things added together kind of make it so it's a little bit overkill, but if you're trying to play around that specifically, it can kind of work. Next we'll go Sorcery. So got Nimbus Cloak. I think Nimbus Cloak's really underwhelming. I don't know that many people that actually take it. It just there's one reason I say that it's really bad. The one reason is it literally decays the moment it pops. So it'll pop, you'll get 100 movement speed, and then the next frame you get less than 100 movement speed, and all the way down to 2.5 seconds it's reducing the whole time. If it worked for 2.5 seconds or like 2 seconds where you got 100 bonus movement speed and then rapidly decayed or whatever, it'd be a good choice. But because it kind of just doesn't feel like you're getting anything at all, like literally you try it, you don't really feel the movement speed at all. That's what kind of makes this feel underwhelming. Mana Flow Ban is a decent option if you're playing lane Vi. You'll go into Sorcery Secondary, I guess, if you want to, and you go Mana Flow Band and something else. It's an option. Nullifying Orb, it works. I don't think it's really that good personally, but I know a lot of people kind of swear by it. Against heavy AP comps, it can work, especially if you're going Sorcery Secondary. But I think you kind of have to weigh your options of what else is available for this tree. So we'll go with just saying none of these top ones are really what you're looking for. Your second row, Celerity has been a staple for a lot of junglers. Vi can be one of those junglers. She's mostly taking Precision Secondary, but taking Sorcery Secondary with Celerity Water Walking, or even Celerity with Gathering Storm or Scorch also works as well. Namely, this comes down to the same deal with Relentless Hunter, where it allows you to be on the map more, and even on top of that, once you buy boots and shit like that, you've got additional movement speed. It gives you a little bit extra damage on top of that. So there's that rune. That's like the best one in Sorcery, if you ask me. Then you've got Absolute Focus, which Absolute Focus, the one thing that I really do like about this is in your first clear, if you can manage this and stay above 70% HP through health potions and managing your passive, it'll actually cut down a total of like 5 or 6 auto attacks on your first clear. Like it'll actually make a decent difference. Then you've got Transcendence. I don't think Transcendence is worth it. I don't really know that many people that take Transcendence regardless. A lot of people like thought it was gonna be the big thing when it first was announced. It's not really that worth it. It's not worth itemizing for additional CDR to make this thing work, and you normally build enough CDR where you don't need the additional 10% to cap out. So I don't think this is something you really want to be looking into. Next up for your third row, you've got Gathering Storm, which was nerfed, by the way. It did used to be better for AD, but thanks to AD carries, it got nerfed. So I think overall, like, your best option is Water Walking. You can look at Gathering Storm if you really would want to go for something that's more of a scaling option. Or you can even go for Scorch, which does a little bit more damage with your abilities. Basically, it's a long cooldown, so it only pop once during a gank, but it's an additional like 20 to 60 damage. It's not a lot, but it's something. It's just something more, I guess. So that's up to you what you'd really want to go for. This is better for river duels, this is better for scaling into the mid game, and this is better for the early game. That's that. Go into Resolve tree. I don't think Resolve is... the minor runes are really that good for Vi. I know a lot of the top lane bruisers are taking them. Like, it's pretty much guaranteed that they take these secondary. But I don't think it's that good on Vi. And I have tried a page where we go Electrocute, whatever, and then Resolve secondary, and it didn't feel bad. but it didn't feel better than any of the other options either. So I can't really commend it and say that I would really suggest it above any other option. But I can definitely say that it is an option that should be considered if it's something that you're looking for. So if you really wanted to go into Resolve Secondary, or if you wanted to take the Aftershock page, what to look into is you can take Demolish. It's kind of a meme, I guess. The main thing is bone plating is really strong. Even if you're not in lane, it's a really good pick, because like if you look at the end game stats, it'll have blocked a really decent amount of damage, because it just stacks up over the course of the whole game. So these two just don't outshine that. And that's basically all that comes down to. Font of Life, you know, it just doesn't. It doesn't. This benefits you not at all, and it benefits whoever is helping you attack somebody a little bit. This is split pushing, but if you're going a Resolve Secondary tree, I really wouldn't think you're split pushing. This is more of a what you would go for if you're team fighting. Chrysalis, I personally don't like Chrysalis. I don't know. I just don't. I don't have reasoning. 50 health doesn't seem like it's anything. Just that's my reason. Just take it. Second win, it's better if you're in lane. Obviously, you get damaged by somebody, so you can heal for 4% of your max health. It's not something that ends up happening much in the jungle, so you don't really get to take advantage of this. Conditioning just gives you bonuses. After 10 minutes, it gives you bonuses. So if you go into this thing as a secondary, I think bone plating and then either unflinching or conditioning are probably your best choices. Or if you go in this as your primary tree, you would probably go bone plating, conditioning, and then unflinching. So to talk a little bit more, you've got Overgrowth. And again, this is all just based off of, because we're playing Vi jungle. Unflinching is a decent pick for any jungler that goes Resolve, because you have a Smite. Smite is a summoner spell, it will proc this, and it's a low cooldown. So you'll be able to get that tenacity and slow resistance way easier than a lot of other champions that would have to use Flash or Teleport, or I think Teleport to get Unflinching would be stupid. But anyway, it's a lot easier for you to proc as a jungler. Revitalize functions on Vi because she has the shield. This does affect her shield, but personally just don't think it's enough to be itemizing into, because your shield is 10% of your HP, so you're taking 5% of 10% of your HP, which is 0.5%. And it's 0.5% of your HP is just not really worth it. I don't think so. I wouldn't go with this. And then there's Overgrowth. Overgrowth that you can get a decent amount. You can get like 400 extra HP off of this. It stacks up, but again, we're just comparing it to Unflinching, and I just think Unflinching just offers more. Lastly, we'll go into your inspiration options for your minor ones. Hextech Flat Straption doesn't function with your Q. You can't channel it while you're channeling your Q. So wouldn't really go with that. Doesn't really do much for you. Magical Footwear doesn't really work that well for junglers, if you ask me, because they need early boots to be effective on the map. Perfect Timing you can kind of make use of. They made it so the did they make it like that? I can't remember if it counts as the same amount of the regular stopwatch, because I think it originally saved too much money. It was like, this thing's worth 600 gold, and that's basically 600 gold being cut off of the cost of like Guardian Angel. I don't think it's worth that. It's like that anymore, and I don't remember what the exact cost of it. Basically, I don't think Perfect Timing is something that you would be wanting to spec into Inspiration just to get. And it's one of the only options. It's really good for you. So Perfect Timing, if you go Inspiration, sure, but otherwise, no. Futures market is good. It helps you get the game rolling faster, lets you control the pace a little bit better, lets you get your buys a little bit earlier. It's still not really that worth it. You don't need a biscuit delivery. Your clear is way healthier than you need. And minion dematerializer, I mean, until this gets changed to the one that fucking stuns shit, you can argue that minion dematerializer is what you want for banner minions. Other than that, no. Cosmic Insight is the other one you would go for if you take this as a secondary tree. I mean, it's free stats. It's just free stats. You could also argue Time Warp Atomic, but I think this is just better for you. Approach Velocity is and yeah, that's basically all the runes. I think Time Warp Atomic is better for people that, you know, need the health or whatever. The 5% extra movement speed while you're using a potion or have an elixir, because it works with elixirs as well, which means in the late game you're basically permanently getting 5% speed. It's kind of nice, but it's not really that worth it. So all in all, that's all the runes. The two, again, there's the this is the page I've been running with Presence of Mind and Ultimate Hunter. You can take Triumph and Ravenous Hunter instead. So there's that. And there's this one with the Sorcery in the secondary. And you can go an Aftershock page. Anyway, sorry it took so long to talk about runes. Hopefully you learned a little bit or whatever you can take away with some of this information, and yeah.